I love it. I would invite anybody, everybody in the city of Flint to come to the McCree Theater before the last performance and enjoy the show. It's so energetic.
Come join us at the new McCree Theater.
Well, all right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today to Real Talk with Karen Weaver. Look, I've been waiting for this interview, and I know you all have too, because I'm still wearing my vote pin. I'm still wearing my vote pin because I said it's something we should be talking about all the time, not just election time. But election time it's getting ready to happen. And I think you all have heard me say we have an opportunity to make some change. And we want to talk to today's guest, Michael Clack. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm really happy to have you here with us today. And if you don't know, I don't know who doesn't know, but in case someone doesn't know, he's running for state representative for the 70th district, which is Flint, to represent us here in the city of Flint. And so I know you've been busy. I know you've been busy. You've been doing things out in the community. You've been campaigning. I mean, you've just been busy. And I want to talk about you running and why you want to run. But you know what, Michael, a lot of people don't realize what does a state representative do. And so before we jump into this interview, I just, wrote some things down because, the role of a state representative is so important. To have a voice in Lansing is so important. And so when you get a state representative, the state representative is the voice for a specific area. In our case, for Flint. They're down in Lansing, and they're our voice. And what state representatives do is they create laws, they set budgets, they assist, they help, they work with the constituents that they are supposed to represent. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper into some more detail about state representatives because they write, they propose, and they vote on bills that become state laws. Let me say that again. We've talked about some of these state laws that we want gone or changed, but they write, propose, and vote on bills that become state laws. And we're talking about in education, we're talking about in transportation, healthcare, criminal justice, environmental kinds of issues. And there's some other things, and we're going to get into that. But they review and they pass the state budget. And that's what determines how our tax dollars are spent and how our tax dollars get allocated. And so, just like city council and mayor. So if the mayor vetoes something, if city council has enough votes, they can override what the mayor has vetoed. It's the same thing with state representatives. If the governor vetoes something, they can override what the governor has done if they think it's in the, not in the best interest of the people. So your state representative is the gap. They bridge that gap between local community needs and statewide policy. So we have to have a strong voice in Lansing advocating for us, because I'm gonna tell you, I remember when I was mayor, I wish I had a state representative that was working for me and being a voice for Flint, because you see the power. And I think sometimes because you're in Lansing, people don't recognize the power that the state representative has. So we're going to talk about this. But you know what I said? I think most people know you, but there might be a few that are watching that don't know you. So tell us about yourself, because I mean, I know you grew up here. He was on the school board,
president and vice president
of the Flint School Board. He was also, a teacher. I've seen some of your students coming out and coming around, and they're very excited about what you did in their lives and for what they see you doing now. I've witnessed that. But for those that may not know something about you, talk about yourself, and then tell us why you're running to be our voice in Lansing?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Weaver. Like you said, I'm a product of Flint. Went to Flint Southwestern, graduated in 1998, and I went off to school. Um, got two beautiful kids, Princeton and Haley. My daughter Haley is graduated from Hampton University. She's currently in school in D.C. at George Washington and to get her master's, and she's working on Capitol Hill, making us all proud, representing Flint very well down in D.C. I'm sorry. My son is a sophomore at Powers, so I'm very proud of my kids. Product of two former state representatives, two former teachers, two former county commissioners, and the longest serving state representative that Flint has had is my dad.
Wow.
For 16
See,
years.
that's something.
So I have been getting this training, so to speak, my entire life, but a little bit about me and the things that I do. Yes, this is campaign season, but this is not really, I'm not doing very much differently than I would normally do, except for carrying a camera around and trying to document the things, because I definitely do a lot of work in voluntary work in the community. I've been tutoring students for free for years. Like you said, I've been an educator, football coach, track coach, trainer. I'm on the board at Formar, our Genesee County Nature Reserve. Been doing that for about 4 years. I'm a former CASA with Voices for Children, child safety advocate. So I used to deal with a lot of child abuse, neglect, and things of that nature. Did that for about 4 or 5 years.
It sounds to me like you've had a lot of different life experiences that have prepared you well to step into this position of state representative.
At least I think so.
Yeah.
At least I believe that, and I thank my parents a lot for that, because they always, especially my dad, when I was growing up, would take me everywhere with him. And he was always in the community, always dealing with different walks of people. I also think the way that I grew up, because I went to Walker, and Walker, as you know, Walker was a magnet school and it closed, and we ended up going to Garfield. And that's where I really ended up being with people who necessarily didn't grow up like me, and we played with kids that didn't have, let me just say, the same background that I had, the same support system.
Or maybe some of the same opportunities.
There you go. And we played together. We still, we're friends, and we're still friends to this day. So I appreciate my upbringing, because there are so many different walks of life that I've interacted with over the years, that a lot of people that are in this position or want to walk in this position don't have those certain experiences. Like I said, I went to Garfield, I went to Walker, went to Southwestern, but a lot of experiences that I have, a lot of people did not have. Like, people don't know I was the one Black person that was on the ski club at Southwestern, and I used to get laughed at all the time. But I know how to ski. I know how to ice skate. These are experiences that I was lucky enough to have, but also experiences that I would like to get our kids that don't have those experiences, get them to have. Just certain things that I believe that we need to expose our children to,
And so we were talking about opportunities. Let's talk about state rep.
Okay.
And what opportunities, because I believe that we're missing out on some opportunities as the residents of the city of Flint, that our state rep could be helpful with. And before, you were saying that you want to run to do some of these kinds of things for us. You want to be a voice for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you know what, I'm gonna go there right now. I'm gonna jump in, because I was looking at something, and I don't know if you have this, Landon, or not, but
It's
when
on
we
my
talk
page.
about being a voice, I'm gonna show you. Okay, I want people to see this, because you'll see highlighted in yellow and red, those are all missed opportunities
ma'am.
for us to have a voice in the city of Lansing. These were when things were going on
Mhm.
and we didn't have a voice. And so, I'm just going to, I went through, this is like 140 something missed opportunities.
And that's from this current session. That's
And
still
this session isn't over.
Yeah, this still currently in
And
this
so
session.
let me say this, because this isn't something that's new, because the last cycle, it was over 300 missed opportunities, not being there, not speaking up, and speaking out for the residents of the city of Flint. And so when I'm looking at this, I just want to touch on some of the things that are on here. And this doesn't cover it, but I was looking at some of these things. And let's see, where do I want to start? I'll start here. And I'm looking at, because we talked about one of the things that state representatives are involved with this school and
Yes.
education
Yes.
and making decisions for what happens. And I'm looking at this, and those were some meetings that were missed. Those were meetings that were missed, and they were talking about the trades in schools and making sure that we have funding available
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
trades in schools. And we know Flint used to be big on that.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was what made us one of the when you talked about our income per capita, we were always number one or number two between us and Detroit on our socioeconomic status. We had trades in the schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Those were missed.
Yes.
Those were missed. Money being allocated for community colleges. You know, and we've got one of the best community colleges here in the country at Mott Community College, but that was
It's
missed.
not. Yeah, it wasn't voted for.
I'm looking at environmental protections about solid waste and water waste and you know, putting funds environmental, and we know firsthand here in Flint that's tied to public health and
Yes,
safety.
ma'am. Yep.
Those were missed. Okay, we're going to talk about this. Go back to the school because you know, when we talk about healthy lunches and healthy foods for the students, and they were talking about what needs to be taken out as far as those unhealthy things, those were missed. Let's see what. Okay, here's another one, and I'm just jumping through. I'm just jumping through. I'm not even covering all of these things. So you know how you get Amber Alerts, and we have things in place for missing children. Okay, well, as we age, sometimes seniors have dementia, they have Alzheimer's, and we have missing seniors. They were discussing things to put in place for missing seniors. Those were missed. I'm just saying. Let me keep going, and then I'm gonna let you jump in. Okay? I'm gonna let you talk, but let me just keep going. Oh, here's another one for environmental protection, water pollution, removal of surface debris. Those were missed. Now, here's no, I'm gonna go back because this one is really interesting to me. But you know how you hear about judges and judges getting shot and their families getting killed and all that. So they talked about putting protections in place so to protect your judicial people. Those were missed. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, here's some around health. And she might be on the health committee, I'm not sure. But there were some around health and pharmaceuticals. Quite a few. They were missed. Mental health.
Public
because
schools.
that was, no one was there for us. And what gets me is there was something in here, and as a woman, I've had to deal with some of these things when you go for your breast cancer screenings and your mammograms, and they were putting some things in place for that, and they were talking about notification of dense breast tissue, and women that when we have to get mammograms, we know what that means. That was missed. And so, and here's one, and you might think it's not important, but it was about consumer protections. And my best example was, so when you go to Ticketron, those kinds of things. I remember Carol and we were going to see Clarissa. So when you order the tickets online, they slap all these fees on you. And I was talking to my daughter who lives down there, and she said, Mom, I'll just go in person and get the tickets. You know how much money that saved? $100.
Wow.
$100. But a lot of people, you don't have time to stand in line. We're not down there. We're Ticketron. I mean, these are just some of the things. And we didn't have a voice. And this was 140 something times. And you know, you're getting paid $71,000 plus travel expenses monthly to go to and from Flint. Well, you get to just put that in your pocket if you're not going. But okay, I'm gonna stop. And I don't know, do you want to jump in?
Yeah.
And then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, that's part of the reason, one of the reasons why I'm running, one of the main reasons why I'm running for state representative is because we don't have a voice for the public schools. You know, like I said, I'm a product of the Flint schools. We were at one time $55 million debt. And since I've been gone, that debt has been, you know, reduced down to, I believe, about $9 million. And I'm proud of that, you know. But at the meetings that I attended, our state representative was not there to advocate for us. You know, our state representative was not present at meetings. And I found this out because I was, one particular reason is I was in went to a school board meeting in Benton Harbor, and they asked us because Benton Harbor was one of the 5 districts that received the debt forgiveness from the state of Michigan.
A
And
debt forgiveness.
yeah,
Okay.
there was a
Uh-huh.
program where the governor gave $116 million. I think it was 116 million to save certain districts from receiving, to get them out of the debt.
Okay.
And they asked me when I was done speaking, why didn't our rep come to the meeting so we could get ours forgiven? And that's how I found out. But
That's how you started finding out about all these absences.
yeah, that's what made me find out.
Can
Yeah,
they
so
see this? Can they see these? And the yellow and the red. Now, and I see some of them have been excused, but that's over 100. You don't
yeah,
get to miss 140 days from a job and still have your job.
yes, ma'am.
And the year isn't over.
hmm If you miss that many days in school, you have to repeat the grade.
Oh, say that again.
If you miss that many days, you got to repeat the grade. So there are certain, out of 141, I think that is out of 400 and something.
Hmm.
That's about 68, 69, 70% areas.
And the
low C
and the
minus,
time isn't up yet.
and we're still in session.
Right.
So there are so many different things that we could be that we need application at the state level
Right.
for that we just don't have. And again, like I said, that's one of the main reasons was because we need funding for our schools.
Hmm.
There were so many different things we had to go around about when I was on the school board because we didn't have that voice in Lansing that was there.
Well, we haven't had
working
a
with
voice
us.
in Lansing in quite some
Right.
time now, because I know I didn't have one when I was in office.
And that was over 10 years ago.
Right.
So we have
But
been
it was the same name.
right, the same name and the same amount of absenteeism.
Hmm.
So
And here's what gets me, because our tax dollars pay for
Pay.
that.
yes, ma'am.
And so we're paying that. And it's 3. I mean, you have to be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Mm.
It's, then you have 2 days to really be engaged with your
The
community.
community. Yes, ma'am.
And so we're paying
Mm.
for this. We're
Mhm.
paying for that job, and we don't have a voice. It makes you think back in history. What was it? Taxation without representation.
That's the whole
And
reason
we're
why there was a
paying.
Revolutionary War.
There you go. There you go. And that was the point I was going to get to.
Mhm.
Landon, do we? Because I'm not on YouTube. I'm looking on Facebook. I'm sorry. But I am glad to see some of these people. Somebody said, that's right, Michael. We have no representation in Lansing. And
Mhm.
and I mean, that's just, I keep thinking about when I was in office and had I had someone in Lansing helping me fight that fight.
Mhm.
Because we were able to get quite a few things for Flint, but just think how much more we could have
Look at that.
gotten
If
if
you
there'd
had
been help. Let's fight together instead of let me think of
fighting
some
against
lies
it.
to tell
Yeah.
on you so I
Mhm.
can get you out of office, and then I can do that and I can put my wife there and we
Mhm.
can continue
Mhm.
this
Yes,
madness.
ma'am.
So what is her response? I mean, what is the response? You may not even know, but when this kind of thing is questioned, what does she say? How does this keep happening and you keep getting reelected? Where do you get to show up for work or not show up for work? Okay. Okay, I'm done.
I don't know. I don't know. And it's funny because I've debate with people, on Facebook that when I brought up her voting record, that well you ain't perfect. It's like, well, no, it's
We're
not
not
about
looking
being
for
perfect.
perfection
We just
because no one's perfect,
right.
but you show up for work.
Right. And that's at the very least,
Right. You
is
show
that
up
is
for
that
work.
we expect for you to go there and you to represent us. Now,
Right.
things happen, and
Mhm.
things happen, health things, people passing, bereavement and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, and let me make this straight, there's not 141 days. This is not
Mhm.
141 days of work that have been missed. This is 141 votes. So there could have been
Right.
5 votes missed, taken up in one day
Right.
or 10, but that makes it even more important
But
because
these are
sometimes people try to hide things in certain bills. And if you're not there to read the bill or you're there to vote on it, then that's how certain, people, they slip and they slide things in the bill at the
Mhm.
back end. And if you're not there or you just don't read it or you don't look, you're not familiar, you vote on it, you could be voting on something that's detrimental or harmful to us.
right.
So
Or you missed voting on something that was helpful
helpful
to
to
us.
us.
And you
Yes.
know what? And I would rather go on the record, even if I don't get the vote,
Yes, ma'am.
but I want people to know
That
I'm
I was
speaking up
there
for you.
and I was speaking on your behalf.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I want people to know.
Mhm.
What were you going to say, Landon?
A few people, B. Marie, hey, everybody on here. Cheryl Hart said, "Good luck, Mr. Clack."
Thank you.
Got Nevada said, "Vote for Clack. Need and deserves Clack for our state rep." Country Bama, hey everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Helen Rochelle Williams, that's right. Michael, we have no representation. Lansing, just a quick rundown. Oh wow, and thank you for caring about our seniors. 82.
I mean, we do. I mean, because and you know what? I think about something that Liz Taylor. I think about her because we were at something and she was asking somebody that she was asking Duggan, who's running for governor, what his dream is for senior centers. But his dream has to be, I'm gonna get you all the money.
hmm hmm
You all have to decide what you
What you gonna
want
do
to
with it?
do.
Right.
So with the money, so the money's there in Lansing.
hmm
He's getting us the money. Somebody's getting us the money.
hmm
And you all are supposed to be there to decide how the money gets allocated
Yes,
and
ma'am.
used for us. And so when you wonder why some of the senior centers, you're talking about the conditions of some of the buildings, they don't have windows, they're not aesthetically pleasing. And we know the importance of that on our mental health
Yeah.
and well-being.
hmm
I'm gonna go back to this. You all see all this red and yellow.
hmm
You all see all this red and yellow. And we're only, what, are we halfway through the session?
A little bit over.
A little
A little
bit.
bit over.
So
A little bit
it's
over.
probably higher now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, there was something. Okay.
Okay.
P. Marie said, "What is Mike's plan to address low literacy rates since the current state rep get paid $25 million non-existent nonprofit?"
Wow.
Well, yeah. And let me just use that because with $25 million, I've broken this down before. I'll use
Okay.
that model. Let's start with that $25 million.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
with that same $25 million, there are certain things that we could do here in Michigan, in Flint, that could coincide or could help the city. So
Mhm.
the one thing that I was talking about was that the city, we have a garbage contract that was
Okay.
$9 million higher than the other, the lowest bidder,
Mhm.
the next closest bidder, let me say. So my thing was, okay, but we could start off buying garbage trucks.
Mhm.
Well, things that one
That's
of
what
the
I wanted to do when I was in office.
yes, ma'am. Now, one of the council people said that, well, and this is back when I raised this when the CFO was the temp from the temp agency, and this is what her response was, well, we don't have mechanics. Okay, well, with that same $25 million,
Mhm.
we could partner with the Flint schools. We could
Mhm.
build a diesel mechanic program from the ground up. We have Northwestern is sitting there.
Yes.
We've got Northern is still sitting there. Now, of course, there's a big difference in the condition of the buildings,
Right.
but we've got the basics. We got buildings. We could build a diesel program from the ground up and give them on-the-job training or apprenticeships with the city. And now we
That's
got a
right.
diesel mechanic program. We got the city that's making money, that's paying taxes, and they're paying people from here to work here and to stay here. And now we're working on the tax revenue base. We're raising that. We're building a program, and that's just one. That's just diesel mechanic. That's just one program that we could partner with the city and move forward in that. Flint schools, city of Flint, move forward. That's just one, and that was just maybe 15 or 12, $15 million, and we could go even deeper. There are other things that we could do.
You know what? But you made me think about something
Mhm.
because I remember being in office and when we talk about the trades and
Mhm.
how, I never thought I'd live in Flint and we didn't have those skilled
Right.
trades readily available. And one of the things we were doing was partnering with Mott Community College.
Yes.
But when they were talking about money for community colleges,
We didn't have a vote.
okay.
Yeah.
I just,
In that same day, there were votes for the community schools too. So
schools are important. Education is important.
Yeah.
And it's really bad when you think about where Flint used to be as far as community education. And we were the model, that
model
the
for
country
the-
that was looking
for the
at.
world,
Exactly.
the
I mean,
world
they were
model.
coming to Flint
To see
to
the community
learn
school. Yep.
and see what we were doing because, I mean, we were so creative and we were putting all of these things in place. And that's why we were who we were.
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean we can't be that again.
Yeah.
Won't look the same, but it doesn't mean we can't
Yeah.
get our greatness again.
Mhm.
But you have to have somebody that's showing up.
Yes, ma'am.
So my question, when somebody says to you, oh, nobody's perfect, we know nobody's perfect, but you do show up for work.
Mhm.
You got to show up for work and you got to be there and you have to speak up and speak out.
Right.
I mean, what would you be doing? Because one of the things, we have a state rep, but I haven't seen like town hall.
No. Well, can I answer B. Marie's question?
Yeah,
Because I feel
keep
like I kind
going,
of left.
B.
I
Marie,
feel like
because
I
I
kind
sure
of.
don't want to cut that.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of,
I know I jumped
left it. But no, as far as the literacy rate goes,
Mhm.
we have to for one, we have to get certified teachers. Well, in order for that to happen, we have to be able to pay the certified teachers.
Right.
And now with that can all be negotiated with how much comes into the city from the state, which the state gets about $80 billion. I think the state budget is about that much. So if we could create real programs with real teachers, they could,
And pay them real
pay them real
salaries.
salaries, because the fact of the matter is when people graduate from college, they're not thinking about coming to Flint to make $38,000 as a teacher when they
Right.
put all this time and money into getting their education. They're not thinking about Flint.
Mm-mm.
They're not thinking about coming into a school district that's got all these different issues. They're not paying people right, and you hear about all these horror stories about. So what we can do is we need to get real certified teachers and pay them. On top of that, we need to make being a teacher cool,
Right.
And so people that are from Flint would be teachers in Flint because they know how to communicate with our kids. They know the environment of the city. So I believe that if that's an issue all in itself, but even if we get programs to teach parents who don't have reading,
Right.
good reading literacy rate, however that may go. I'm not saying the words right, but parents that aren't able to read as well, communicate as well, programs that they'll be able to benefit from. So there are different ways and different ideas and plans that I have that would address that. So I just want to
so
put
you
that.
have some plans.
Oh yeah, I
see?
got it. Oh yeah.
And that's what we want. We want you walking in
Mhm.
with some plans.
Yeah,
Even if
definitely.
they have to get altered and changed
Mhm.
as you go.
Mhm.
But at least you have a roadmap to say,
Yes, ma'am.
here's where we are and here's where we're trying to get, and here's what I'm going to do
Mhm.
to bridge that kind of gap.
Right.
And that's why this position, this elected position of state representative, is just so important.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
it's really important.
Mhm.
And that was why I thought it was important to tell people, here's what a state rep does.
Does,
Because
right.
sometimes it's like you're removed. We don't see all the time
Right.
because you are down there in Lansing. But this is what you're down there to
Do,
do. And
yeah.
it's still to represent us.
And I want to make that change. I would like to, I keep saying when I get elected, I'm going to bring Flint with me, which I really do mean that, because most people believe that politics is boring. They just stick around, they pay attention to it in
Right.
Flint because of all the negative things that happen here in Flint, the city council and, things of that nature. But what I would like to do is, I don't want to tell everything because we know how some people take ideas and they make it their own. And,
Right. Yes, I do.
They, put the city sticker on it and make it their own. But what I would like to do was build some type of coalition of students from the area and bring them to Lansing, maybe monthly, maybe by semester or something like that, and show them that this is what a state representative does.
Right.
And I know how I felt, growing up, going to Lansing with my dad, seeing the big fancy walls and seeing, all that stuff means something.
Right.
It might just exposing them. We might be creating our next Speaker of the House,
Right.
our next state representative, our next senator, our next, anything like that.
Anything like that. And then there are the jobs, because you have to have staff.
Yes, ma'am.
And so there's so much exposure, but I really like that idea because so many times you hear, and we know that a lot of people don't understand how government works.
Right.
They don't know what the mayor can do and can't do, and what this is city council's responsibility, or what county commissioners do. They don't even understand. When we talk about education, that's between the superintendent and your board of education, and those are the things that they're responsible for. And so then you have something that's a little bit more removed, but if we had a state rep that was doing really what they used to do, and because we saw your parents, we saw Woodrow. We saw our state reps because they had community engagement.
Right.
And I think that's how you educate people and let them know what it is. I saw Michael Doan is in here watching.
What's up, Mike?
And he said, this is great information. He said, you have his support, and this needs to be a main conversation in this race.
And I want to say Mike had that same vision with education too. Mike, if I believe, Mike had his own school.
Yeah.
at like 21.
Yeah.
Right. So there are people here that are doing
We
the
have
work.
talent
We have a
here.
lot of talent here and the people that are really doing the work. And he a school of his own.
Right.
You know, it's impressive. I'm really impressed by that. Really.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Kevin Tay,
hey,
What's
Kevin.
up, Kevin?
state rep has missed almost every meeting she was supposed to be at. She only showed up time to her husband. This is not 100%. Like Black data, Jasmine M is saying we're just creating one that active order.
Yeah.
Midnight Miss Carol in the building said, "Hey, Clyde, do your."
What's up, Carol?
I mean, and I'm glad people are engaged in this because that's one of the things I've said. That's why I try to wear this pin a lot because I think it's a conversation that we need to be educating people continuously because things change too.
Exactly.
You know, things change.
One other thing that I wanted to say is that along with the voting, we have to start stressing people doing the census. Because that's one of the reasons why we used to have 2 state representatives, and now we have 1.
Now we have
Now, me personally, I know how I grew up. Don't open the door. You know, we not here. You know, your mama tell you don't open the door, and you know, and that's how That's how we are. You know, when somebody comes to your door that doesn't look like you, that you don't know, we as Black people more than likely don't answer the door.
Right.
And then we don't look at the census as how it is supposed to. People think that the census means that they just trying to get in your house.
Right.
You know, they trying to, I got a warrant for my arrest and they just trying to get me, or
Right.
whatever the census. No, what it really does is a census really, it allows us to have, because we used to have 2 state representatives.
We sure did.
So
Well, in fact, when I was in office, we still had 2 state
Right.
representatives.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Vera Rising, if y'all don't know
Right.
who the last, I think she was the last one with the
No, we had because Phil Phelps used to be.
right.
It
Mhm.
was Neely and Phil Phelps. We
Mhm.
had 2
Mhm.
state representatives when I was in office, but then the census came
The
and
census
COVID
came in
had taken
2010.
place.
Yep.
And we kept saying those numbers are not accurate.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
but I
Yep.
sometimes, you know what, I think, now this is just me, but sometimes I think they want those things to happen because they
course.
want to decrease our
Of course.
representation.
Yes, exactly.
You know, they want
Exactly.
they want communities that look like Flint
Mhm.
to not have a voice. They're probably real happy. Maybe that's how she keeps getting elected. They're
Mhm.
happy we don't have a voice in Flint, so things can pass.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have an opportunity to change that.
Mhm.
And when we talk about our elections, I said you better look at these kinds of things
Mhm.
because these records are important
Mhm.
to know that someone's up there speaking for you and fighting for you, even if you don't win. I think was this before we got started? I was talking about what was going on with the water
Mhm.
and how
Mhm.
I wasn't part of the settlement,
Mhm.
but I had to join in because I wanted to go to court.
Right.
When they were having that, I wanted to go on
And
record
be on record.
to
Right.
say, okay, and now, okay, so here's a question that I have, and maybe I've just missed it, but you know, I'm still mad about this water
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm.
And we haven't had a state rep speaking out about the water. We haven't had a state rep saying, y'all finish changing those pipes. We
Mhm.
need those pipes changed. We haven't had a state rep saying $1,000. You're kidding me. And then it gets counted as income.
Mhm.
But you know what? What I believe some of that problem is,
Mhm.
I believe some of that problem is for our state rep to speak out on that, she'd be speaking against her husband.
And that was, I was going to say, and people ask me, well, what could a state rep have done in the situation?
Spoken out.
Spoken out. The same thing that her husband did, hold a press conference and try to shame the people into doing. That's the same thing that what this would have done if we had a mayor and a state rep that are singing the same. There you go. So then we would have 2 of our highest.
And then you could have had
officials.
and you could have your city council president.
There you go.
You could have them standing
There you go.
up
Standing
and
up, and
speaking
if
out,
you got
and then you pull in your state senator.
There you go.
You have a force. It's like you have a
There you go.
delegation,
There
and
you go.
that's why it's important because you want a Michigan delegation right here, a Flint delegation,
exactly
and
right.
that makes up our Flint delegation, like you have a Michigan delegation in
Yes, ma'am.
D.C. And so that's why it's important.
Mhm. You would, and then if you would think, if you were just talking to a stranger from anywhere else and say, well, our
Mhm.
state rep and our mayor are married, they're, you know, their husband and wife, you would think just by that, you know, that coming across in conversation that Flint, y'all got to be doing it, you know, doing it big. Y'all got to really be having things. And when you look at Flint, when you ride around Flint, I mean, the real Flint, not downtown,
Right.
the north side, the east side, the
Yep.
subsections of the west
Some
side.
parts of the
When-
south
yeah,
side.
south
There
side.
are some bad areas
Yes,
in
ma'am.
Flint that don't have to be.
Yes, ma'am. So when you and that alone would suggest that we need somebody that's going, and well, me, but but I'm saying we need somebody that is going to do something different,
Right.
and I mean different in a positive way. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that I'm perfect. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that I won't miss a meeting or two here or there. But what I am saying is that there won't be 140. What I am saying is there won't be a misvote on our education, on our infrastructure, on our water, on our our kids, on our seniors,
On our mental health,
on our mental health,
our physical health, I mean, you
anything.
said that.
Mhm.
Yes. Landon, he is making a face over there. What are our comments?
Carolyn.
What,
How you guys?
what Carol say?
We got Carol and Miss Rochelle Williams talking back.
Mm-hmm.
Said we have no state rep. Miss Stephanie Denise said we have no representation in our area. No one advocating for us. We are losing out on opportunities to the state. Teams that work. Miss Michelle Williams came and said our mayor and state representatives are in the hoops with the press.
Yes,
Oh,
I believe.
Exactly, or Carol said exactly, and Sheldon is running both seats. And Ms. Denise said we have no one advocating.
and that's sad.
Yeah.
Yet our tax dollars are paying for representation,
Mhm.
and we're not getting it.
Mhm.
I mean, we are not getting it, and that just it doesn't make sense. And what I don't understand is how someone that doesn't show up to work, doesn't show up for the people,
Mhm.
and gets voted in. The people, we got to stop this. We've got to stop this. We got to show up. We have got to vote because your vote matters. And when they see that we don't, we get overlooked.
And that's exactly what is happening now.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, and I hate to say it like this because we are in a situation to where if I don't win,
Mm-hmm.
we are doomed. I mean,
Oh, I feel that way. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, I'm
Mhm.
with you,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna say it too. We
Mhm.
are. I mean, if we don't get us a state rep, if we don't get us a mayor, if
Yes,
we don't
ma'am.
get some
A
council
council.
people
Yeah.
that care, if we don't get some people, and I don't know which school board seats are up, but you all pay attention to
Please
this.
do.
This is about us, and this is our lives and our kids, and everybody in between. Because you see, there are things on here for our seniors,
Mhm.
and we don't have anybody. I mean, is she running again? Maybe she doesn't want the job, because if I didn't want a job, I wouldn't show up either.
Right. Well,
So,
it's been now
but maybe
doing 7 years.
maybe
And
if I got paid for not showing up, I'd keep doing that. I
it's
don't
been
know.
7 years, and we haven't heard anything. We haven't, me personally, I've had multiple forums,
Yes.
and I, even when I wasn't a candidate, well, especially when I wasn't a candidate, but I would invite everyone.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
I never would get a response, and I understand, maybe,
Now, if you don't show up, they're gonna drag you. Because if
of
I
course,
hadn't showed up, they were gonna drag me.
of course,
I got
but
dragged for doing my job. So
right. So you just would you would expect that if it's been working all of this time, why would I change? You know, the thing is, if we don't, and I'm not saying I'm Superman, I'm not saying, again, I'm not perfect, but what I am saying is I am willing, I want to do the job. I want to be the person to go to Lansing and speak on behalf of these 90,000 people here in Flint. And the 70th district does entail a little bit of burden
yeah.
and a little bit of Mundy Township.
Well, they don't have any representation either.
Right.
They
So
ought to be mad too.
right. So, and I also want to say that if you know me, then most people, a lot of people know me. I'm approachable. I'm not the type of person that's going to snap off on somebody for asking me a question or for asking me why I voted this way, or I'm not that person.
Right.
I'm not sure if any state reps before have had an office here in Flint, but I'd be willing to take my own money and open an office here in Flint, just so we could have a voice. If you a place to come and voice your concerns or to let me know. Whatever, I'm willing to do that. We just need so much here, and we need me to help,
Yeah.
to help us get it, and I mean that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that, because it shows that you're committed.
Mhm.
And that's what we need, is someone that's really committed, because because at the end of the day, being an elected official is being a servant to the
Mhm.
people.
Exactly. That is your number one job.
Right. You're supposed to be a servant to the people.
Mhm.
You want to serve.
Mhm.
And you have to go through a whole lot to serve the people,
Mhm.
and it requires you showing up.
Yes.
It requires voting. It requires community engagement. It requires educating the people. I like that you want to take young people. I want some of us older folk to go too, because you know what? Because a lot of us don't know how government works either.
A lot
And
of
when
our
you
elected
have
officials don't know what they're
right,
supposed to do. A lot of them don't. You can tell by
I
how
agree.
you can tell by you can tell by what they by what they say and what they do and how
Right,
they vote. So not to
right.
cut you off, but
No, but that's why I said let me be quiet, because you hit the nail on the head with that.
Mhm.
And so it's educating, because, and like you talked about when we were talking about even the literacy rate, if the parents or the caregivers, because it might not be your mom and daddy, it might be your grandparents, your auntie, your uncle, whoever is in that role,
Mhm.
they can read, then they can help your child
Yes, ma'am.
read.
Mhm.
And so that is just so important.
Mhm.
And we want quality of life from birth to death.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, I want to go out in a good way,
Right. And
you
leave our
know,
kids something
and
and leave our grandkids
right,
something, not debt.
right.
Mhm.
And that's why having a voice in Lansing
Yes, ma'am.
is just so important. And I want to go back to something else you talked about, because you're saying you're not perfect, and I'm saying none of us are.
Mhm.
And sometimes what bothers me, and this is, I'm just gonna say as a Black person, what bothers me is we hold higher standards for you
Mhm.
or for me.
Mhm.
But there are going to be some people on that list you just vote for. You haven't seen them. You haven't talked to them. You
Mhm.
haven't asked them why this, why not that. But we're going to dog you.
Yes, ma'am.
And we've got to have some grace with each other. But grace doesn't mean you get to miss over 140 and we're not even all the way through the session. That's not grace. That's just taking advantage of the people. That's neglect. That's not doing your job. And we're paying for a job to not be done. I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my biggest issues is some of the things we afford to people that are running in for elected positions that don't look like us.
Mhm.
Let me
Mhm.
just color them in.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
haven't even talked to them, but you
Mhm.
could show up at all these different things, and we're still going.
Mhm.
We're going to treat each other differently, and so we need to watch how we treat each other. Because I want somebody that I got your number,
Call me. Yes, ma'am.
and I can call you
Yes,
and
ma'am.
ask you about something. Some of those other people, I can't call them. I don't
Mhm.
even know them like that.
Mhm.
And so we
Mhm.
need to kind of cherish that and value that. And I'm gonna tell you something else I like. And I like when you've had that kind of experience when you've grown up in some of those kinds of things.
Mhm.
And it seems like only in politics do we say, "Oh, they just want to do that because they mom and dad." So what? My husband wanted to be a dentist because that's what his dad did.
It was
So what's
us.
wrong with that? Look
It's
at
only us that do that.
Right. And look at Carrie's kids. Carrie, who is now the fire chief in Lansing.
Mhm.
They did that because they saw what their mother did.
Mhm.
I was joking with Landon. I said, if I got mad at Landon or Landon couldn't come, which one of you kids could do this? And they said we could. I
Mhm.
mean, in every other field, we think, oh, they're following in their father's footsteps. They're following in their mother's footsteps.
Mhm.
But when it comes to politics,
They only
then
vote.
but we see other people.
We don't say anything about
We
the
don't, we vote for
Cherries,
them.
about the Kennedys,
Right.
about the anybody else that
We
has.
just vote for
There
them.
you go. And I tell people this all the time, I've been dealing with this for a while. So it just, at first it kind of bothered me, but
You know what? Embrace it.
yeah.
Say that's
So
right. That
if
is
my
that
dad,
is part of why you want to do it, because you saw
there you
what
go,
they did.
there you go.
They were role models for you.
Mhm.
And if our parents aren't role model, I mean, they role model either in a negative way or a positive way.
Mhm.
And when they role model, then there's some things you learn instinctively because you're
Yes, ma'am.
just around
Around
it.
it. Yep. And if my pa- if and I say this all the time, if my dad was a mechanic,
Mhm.
people would expect me to take over the
Uh-huh.
family business.
Right.
And if even if my dad was a dope dealer, people would
They would
say
expect.
they would
Well,
expect me to grow up, hey, that's Lil Clack. He's selling
right,
dope like his daddy,
right.
but only because my dad and my mom were public servants and they were elected officials, do
Mhm.
people say, oh,
But
he
nobody
is a
said
dope.
about you being a teacher, did they?
No.
Okay. Um, I mean, we need to do better with that.
Right.
We need to do better with that as people. And so I just wanted to put that out
Hmm.
there because sometimes you hear that,
Hmm.
and we shouldn't. We just shouldn't.
It doesn't really bother me
Uh-huh.
anymore, but at first, and I will say
It
this,
bothers me
It it
sometimes.
I it does a little bit, but not as
Yeah.
much as it does. But I will say this: I thank my mom because I was probably maybe 24, I said, you know what? I want to run for city council. And my mom said, you haven't done anything for the community. And I looked at her like, so my last name Clack. What are you talking about? Like, I just, but I thank her so much for saying that because I was I was mad.
She said, and because your name is Clack, you
better get out there and
because that's what we've shown you.
Yes, ma'am. And I thank her so much. I told her the other day, thank you for saying that because you don't know, like I was mad. Like, what you mean I got to do something? But y'all did it. I'm walking with y'all. But no, it took me to realize that you really do have to, and it's not about recognition. It's about doing what's right. It's about helping people. And when you have the means, if you have the resources, and you have the wherewithal to do it, you got to do it. And that's where I am.
And they laid a foundation. They laid a foundation educationally, and I think it's really good that. I mean, I like your education piece that you are a teacher. I like that you've been on the board of education. I mean, I think there's just some things that you've had that give you extra. Can I say extra qualifications? I don't know, but I mean you have the experiences to know and say, I know how this works. I know how that works, and I know what we can do here.
And that's another thing. Let me say that too. That's another reason why I thank my parents, because I've been in circles with influential people my entire life. So I don't get starstruck when it's, the mayor want to talk to you. That's, I'm not going to be, because he did. I didn't go. It's like, why do I need to, nothing to talk about? So it's not.
Because you know real from fake.
Yes. So I don't get starstruck when it's time to meet influential people, important people. It's, I've been around them in my entire life. So, that's part of the job.
Right.
And that's just what it is.
And the thing I like about that is because sometimes we get starstruck by influential people and we go along with the bad decision that they're making because of who they are, instead of separating, okay, now what are they saying? That don't make no sense. That makes zero sense to do that.
And you see it now with some of the city council members that the mayor is influencing to do certain things. And it's like, well, this isn't even it's not even the law. You can't do this. But he's playing them because he's saying if they're voting for it, because he'll point it out, council voted for this.
Yeah.
And this is why we're doing it. But he isn't the one. Council is the one. So there are certain things that the people that don't really know the job and don't really know the law and don't know how government works, certain people know how to run circles around. And that's what we see, what's going on here.
And that's what we see. That's what we see. And so, I mean, I hope we have some more conversations because the election is
August 4th.
August 4th. It's August 4th. And right now is today April 1st?
31st.
Oh, this is March 31st.
31st. My birthday
okay,
was
this
yesterday.
is March 31st. So tomorrow's April.
Yes, ma'am.
May, June, July. Oh, so we have 3 full months before the election. And that's not that much time.
No.
It's coming. It's coming. And you all, bring people to the polls. I mean, this is so important because I feel like if we don't make some changes with this midterm, we're in trouble.
We are
because we're already in trouble.
Yes.
But it gets deep.
We haven't even said anything about the SAVE Act.
Right.
We haven't said anything
we haven't talked about that.
About what the Republicans are trying to do with these guns.
Right.
We haven't said, so we have to have somebody that's at least willing to stand up and talk and vote. We got a lot
and
of
that
things
will come back and talk to the people.
Yes.
I want somebody because we need to know. We need to know. Because like we said, one of the responsibilities of a state rep is community engagement.
Of course.
Because you can't be the voice of the people if you're not
talking to the people.
Oops. If you're not talking to the people. I mean, don't send me something in the mail giving me some phone numbers. I'm tired of getting that.
There you go.
Tell me why you deserve my vote. And that's what I like is you talking about, no, I do have a plan.
I do.
And here's what I want to do. Because we shouldn't just give our vote away. Don't just give it away. What are you doing to earn my vote? And so that's why I think this is so important. And that's why I think we have to have some more conversations.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you just hit on some other things that we need to be talking about. That we need to be educating people about.
Even more, the state of Constitution is up to be voted on this year. And there's certain things that go with that. And I put that out there because I don't, I wasn't saying I support voting for or in favor.
But
I wasn't saying people know. Yeah, because that's what's going to be on the ballot in November. So that's something that people need to know about because that could benefit Flint if they pass to vote on that, or it could definitely hurt Flint. So if we don't have somebody in Lansing that is advocating, fighting,
Right.
then we could be really hurt by real soon.
And you know what? Some of the things I don't think we do very much now. We'll go to city council meetings every now and then. We'll go to the county commissioner meetings, or
Mhm.
we'll go to school board meetings. Not enough.
Mhm.
Go to school
But yeah,
board meetings enough, or the other meetings, but showing up in land.
yeah. And it's just like city council. You can
Right.
go in
You
and
can
sit on
show up in land.
yep. You can, and actually, I just went Friday before last. I missed a day, but I
Uh-huh.
thought it was the wrong Friday. But you can go and sit in on meetings. You can sit in on the session. You can go and sit in the up in the mezzanine and watch and pay attention and listen and
And you can see if your rep is there.
yeah.
You can see how they vote
Hmm.
and who else. I mean, because it kind of lets you know, oh, okay, maybe we need to work with that person,
Hmm.
or who looks like we could pull
Yes,
them
ma'am.
over to our side
Yes, ma'am.
for some
Yes,
votes.
ma'am.
And so we don't have a clue
Hmm.
about any of those kinds of
Hmm.
things.
How our representative interacts with the other
Right.
representatives, because you're going to have to lean on somebody to get certain things, your things to pass.
Right.
So if our rep is just not there or by themselves over in the corner somewhere not communicating, then we don't really have a relationship with the others to get things done.
And that's important. That's really important. Let me ask you this, because I think this has been so informative. Is there anything that I haven't asked, or something that you want to make sure people know about either state rep and the responsibilities, or about you, that we haven't touched on? And I don't know. Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I can. If there's any questions, is there any questions, Landon, that anybody's asked? I'll be okay.
They agreeing with you.
Okay.
That's what they're doing.
Okay. Okay.
But I think that's good, because I mean, this is the first time in a long time that people have heard
Mm-hmm.
anything like this, as far as what you or what a state rep can do for us and will do for us. And I think the comments show that, I mean, people want this. We want this.
We
We
need
want a
this.
voice. Yeah,
Mm.
we need it. I mean, our lives depend on it. I mean, because I don't want to be missing. I don't want to be, and oh, I wasn't even talking about the state rep when I
Right.
said
Right.
missing. But I was talking about what happens, when we were talking about our scene.
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
want to be missing,
Mhm.
and there were some things that could have helped protect me.
Mhm.
You don't want your mother, your grandparents, your aunt, you don't want that to happen, knowing more could have been done
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
help protect them,
Mhm.
but we didn't have a voice there.
Right.
We're talking about what these things, what's in our food, and how this food is not even real.
Mm.
And they're talking about trying to make food lunches healthier for our kids, and wondering why people are coming down with these illnesses now in their 20s and 30s, because they've been eating this crap
Yes,
all
ma'am.
this time, but we don't have somebody there to
That's
say,
something that I wanted to say
go
too.
ahead.
When I was on the school board, the Republicans are trying to defund
Hmm.
or wipe out the breakfast and lunch program, defunded by 50 cents for, I can't remember. I didn't bring my notes for that. I didn't look
Hmm.
at my notes once, but defunded by a lot.
Hmm.
So we as a school board went to DC to advocate for those programs that you're speaking
Yeah.
about. They're trying to defund
Be-
and take away
and these might be some of the only meals that the kids get.
most of the kids. Let me not say
When
that.
we look
Let
at
me
our
not,
free and
yes, ma'am.
reduced.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of the kids, especially in the Flint school
Hmm.
system, and some of these inner city charters, a lot of them, especially breakfast.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't get breakfast at home, and if you start cutting into the free breakfast in the lunch program, then this saying that the teachers say is called hangry.
Hmm.
Hungry and
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah.
Then what is that going to do? Because you cannot concentrate when you listening to your stomach
Right.
growling. That's just it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Can't. So if we don't have someone that's going to stand up and say, look, our kids need this.
Hmm.
The kids in my community have to have this.
Hmm.
And quiet is kept. A lot of the kids in a lot of their communities need it too.
Yeah.
It's just those certain people that control the money that are saying we can't afford this. We need to cut these
No,
things.
we can't afford not to have it,
Right.
is really the case.
That's what
I
it
mean,
is.
I want, as a mental health provider,
Mhm.
that's as a mental health professional,
Mhm.
we know we need more mental health services in our
Mhm.
school. I mean, we know the importance of that.
Mm.
I mean, this is crazy.
Yes.
This is crazy. Some of these things we know the importance of clean water
Mhm.
and voting around things about our water.
Mhm.
I mean, Flint has been the poster child
Yes, ma'am.
for water, and to not show up for these kinds of
Anything that has
votes,
anything to do with infrastructure.
right?
Mm.
You know, we know that breast cancer is higher in Black women,
Mm.
and to not show up on issues around breast cancer,
Mm.
I got a problem with that.
Yes, ma'am.
I got a problem with that. When we talk about consumer protections,
Mm.
I need my money.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we need to hold on to as much, and these are unnecessary fees that
Fees
they're
to
put.
just
They're just making
make
fees
somebody
up,
rich. Yep.
and they make it so we can't attend certain things because it costs too much. We want those consumer protections.
And
We
I'm
want to
glad that you
keep.
said that because
Uh-huh.
our state rep sits on the regulatory what is
Okay,
it? What is a regulatory committee? I forget what it's called,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but it directly has to do with that.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, I want that.
Mm.
You know, those are the protections that if we don't get them, we're paying for you to go and speak out about them at
Yes, ma'am.
least.
Mm.
And we could say, well, you know, we didn't get it, but we saw you there fighting for us. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we saw you, but I've seen you at more things that the state rep should be at than,
Mhm.
oh, I haven't seen the state rep, but I've seen, okay.
Let me add this too, because this is something that, and I don't want to. I just want to be honest, because our state rep was the former chair of the tax committee. Our taxes are steady going up. In 2027, the state of Michigan is now going to collect our income tax, our city income tax. So the state is going to be the collector. They're going to be garnishing wages. Now, the important part of why a chair of a committee can do is if that bill had come across the desk of a chair to raise taxes or to lower taxes, it didn't have to be voted on because the chair could put it over to the side. The chair decides what goes into that meeting and what comes up. So if that was
But the chair has to be there.
that too, but even if the chair, let's just say, cared about the constituents, then the chair could have said, you know, these harm my constituents.
Right.
We're not going to put this on the committee to vote on. We're just going to not do that.
Yeah.
Or we're going to say, I'm going to say, hey, this is going to help my community. We're
Right.
going to vote on this and put this on the
Right.
agenda for this meeting so we
Yeah.
can speak on it. So I just wanted to put that out there because once you become a chair, because you vote in the session, but the real meeting goes on in the subcommittee, in the committee. You know, so I wanted to put that
Right.
out there because if the chair doesn't want it, it doesn't happen.
Okay, you all hear that? Representation matters.
Mm.
Your vote is your voice. You know, I want to thank you for
No
coming
problem.
on.
Thank you for having me.
I want you to come back because there's a lot we need to be letting people know.
Yeah.
You know, people need to know these kinds of things, and so we want you all to like this, to share this, to subscribe, and remember, vote. It's voting time.
Yes,
It'll
ma'am.
be here in a little bit over 3 months. Take somebody to the polls, please, because we need a voice in Lansing. And I want to thank you for even wanting to do that, to be a public servant, to represent the people of Flint.
Mm.
Thank you for wanting to take that on because it's not easy work.
No, it's
It's
definitely not.
necessary work.
Yes.
And it's servant work. And we need more people in elected office that recognize that you're being a public servant to the people. So with that, I'm going to thank you all for tuning in to Real Talk with Karen Weaver. This has been wonderful. I want to thank you, Michael Clack. He is candidate for state representative for the 70th district, where we need a vote and we need a voice. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Real Talk. Have a good day.
Thank you.